Robber who kicked and punched pensioner for his cottage pie has been jailed for his murder. Now, I'd done a video on this a couple of weeks back when the trial was ongoing, when he got found guilty. I was talking about the case, and he's now been sentenced. He is a horrible piece of shit. This man, Peter Augustine, who, it's not as though he's a young fellow himself. He is 59, a 59-year-old man doing this to a pensioner is absolutely outrageous. I'm going to talk about the case and talk about his sentence and talk about what he is going to expect inside a prison and what the other lads will treat him like inside a jail, because people like him, who has killed an old man who's been to the shops on an afternoon to buy himself some groceries, went to the chip shop on the way home, happy as Larry walking down the streets, until he bumps in to that horrible, despicable man. Imagine that, man. Somebody taking the life of an 87-year-old man just so he can pinch some measly belongings off him. He could have probably would have given it if he'd asked for it. But the old man in mention is John Mackey. John Mackey, 87-year-old, was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a co-op store in Manor House, North London, on the afternoon of the 6th of May. Now, I'm going to turn this around so you can see this horrible man's face. That's him there. That is the one who ended the life of that poor old man. So the robber who kicked, this is quite horrible to listen to as well, and knowing like what he'd actually done to him in the street. I mentioned in the previous video, John Mackey walking down the street with his trilby on, 87-year-old. When I see these type of old fellas, old geezers I call them, when you see these type of old geezers walking down the street, you give them respect, what they deserve. You ask them if they're okay. If they look like they're struggling in the street, you hang on to them, or you get them to hang on to you, and you walk them home, and you make sure that they get home okay and they don't fall down and hurt themselves. So why would someone like him look at this old fella and think straight away, I'm going to punch and stamp on his head and take what he's got in his bag? Absolutely unfathomable. Fathomable, rather, I should say. So the robber kicked and punched the pensioner before taking off with a box of cornflakes and a cottage pie, and he's been sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 23 years. John Mackey, 87, was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a co-op store in Manor House, North London, on the afternoon of 6th of May. Earlier in November, an Old Bailey jury found Augustine, 59, guilty of robbery and murder. He was also sentenced for a theft that was dealt with at a magistrate's court. Augustine, the coward what he is, did not attend his sentencing at the Old Bailey on Friday, claiming he was suffering from back pain. Hopefully that back pain was something to do with a bit of prison justice, which I highly doubt. It'll be of lying on his lazy, cowardly fucking back. Handing out her ruling broadcast live from the court, Judge Sarah Whitehouse KC said, I have no hesitation in finding that his non-attendance is voluntary and is appropriate to sentence him in his absence. Augustine attacked gentle, innocent Mr. Mackey for a box of cornflakes, a pint of milk, and a Savoy sausage. Judge Whitehouse said, adding that I have no doubt that if this defendant was genuinely starving and had asked Mr. Mackey for help, this kind, generous gentleman would have assisted him. Exactly what I said. This is what these type of old people are like as well. They'll go out the way to help somebody who they would think is less fortunate than them. See someone on the street, they'll go out the way to make sure they're okay. She said, "I have no doubt that the defendant targeted him specifically because he was frail. It was a cowardly act. The defendant has shown no remorse." And this is what I find outrageous as well, this next bit. Augustine has spent 203 days on remand and therefore has 22 years and 162 days left of his sentence to serve. The 203 days that he spent on remand should mean jack shit, especially with the coward not turning up for his sentence. He should have had his sentence start from that day. There is loads of people I've been inside of prison with who are on charges nothing like this with old people. And they've been on remand, and the judge has just said, right, you're starting your sentence from today, you're not getting your remand back. Absolute piss take. And this fucking freako has actually had his remand time took off. He was sentenced to 4 weeks imprisonment for theft and 8 years for robbery. All 3 sentences will be served concurrently. So them are the 2 sentences that he's got. Obviously, it's just a 4 week, that one, but the 8 years for robbery runs concurrently, meaning it doesn't mean jack shit. He'll not serve any more time. He's just going to get or serve the big sentence, the life sentence. But for me, they should have added the 8 years onto the life sentence. Mr. McKay's niece, Patricia Shan, described her perfect uncle as funny, charming, mysterious, and very definitely mischievous, and went on to criticise Augustine's behaviour during the trial. Mr. Mackey had set off from his home shortly after 5 p.m, wearing a trilby hat, grey Macintosh coat, and carrying a walking stick and black bag. At 12 minutes past 5, he went into the co-op where he bought cornflakes, an own brand cottage pie, and the Mirror newspaper which he put in his bag. 18 minutes later, Augustine started to follow the pensioner. Mr. McKee went into Manor Kebab at 5:36 p.m. and bought a sausage and chips as the defendant loitered outside waiting for him. This is absolutely outrageous. The victim was last seen on camera at 5:50 p.m. and Augustine reappeared on CCTV 3 minutes later carrying what appeared to be the victim's bag. Passers-by reported seeing Augustine attacking Mr. McKee and searching his jacket as he lay on the floor. Why the fuck didn't you intervene? Why didn't you shout and scare this absolute wronging off? He's that much of a coward attacking an old fella. If someone just raised their voice and shouted at him, he would have ran away because he's a fucking horrible, cowardly man. Another member of the public alerted police after she heard a shout of, "Give me the bag," and saw Mr. McKee lying motionless on the pavement. Mr. McKee, who was bleeding from his head, regained consciousness but was unable to tell officers what had happened. He was treated in hospital for bleeding on the brain and broken ribs but died from his injuries 2 days later. Police used CCTV footage to piece together events, but the attack was not caught on camera. A later search of the defendant's room uncovered what was left of the pensioner's groceries and wrapping from the cottage pie and sausage and chips. So he's went back and sat there in his fucking room and ate the sausage and chips, knowing that he just done that to an old man. How could you sit and eat knowing you just done that? Shows exactly what he is. Let's see how fucking big he is when he's eating with the big dogs inside a prison. Augustine was arrested 2 days after the assault, but showed no remorse for his actions while in custody, making a series of threats, acting violently and throwing hot coffee at an officer. Miss Bickerstaff told jurors Mr. McKee was 5'5" and weighed less than 9 stone. Less than 9 stone, he must have been absolutely tiny. Like I've mentioned earlier on in the video and in the last video I've done, if you see someone of that size and stature and that age, you go out your way to help them and make sure they're safe and secure. You don't do what he's done to them. She previously said he would have been largely unable to put up any resistance to the attack due to his age and infirmity. The prosecutor said that at the time Augustine was living in reduced circumstances and was effectively homeless. Miss Shan said the defendant's behaviour showed complete disdain disrespect and disregard for the family throughout the trial and caused even further distress from what was already an extremely traumatic experience. His refusal to even attend during the trial caused anguish and uncertainty because we did not know what we thought would be facing on a daily basis. He was constantly turning around and looking at us and shouting at us and frankly terrifying us from the witness box, which was just a few meters away. How absolutely horrendous for that poor family sitting there in the public gallery, waiting for justice, watching the trial, listening to everything that had happened to their poor uncle, granddad, whatever relative, and then you've got that horrible vermin sitting there, taunting them, terrifying them from the witness box. Just absolutely outrageous. But this old fella, this Irishman, this old Irish fella, there will be a lot of people who have sympathy for him, and a lot of people who have anger towards Augustine. So believe you me, people, he will get his comeuppance inside of jail. He will come up against a couple of the Irish lads. That's if he doesn't. He'll be straight on the VP wings. But with what I've read up on him, with his arrogance, with his attitude, and with the violence, maybe he will try and go unnoticed, which a lot of these do. A lot of these ones that have killed old people and robbed old people, snatched handbags off them. I know from experience by being in prison and reading papers and saying that's that wrong, and they get them off the fucking wing and they get chased. They get battered, bruised, and run off the wing. He will be one of these ones that will probably try to go unnoticed. But like I've mentioned previously, a lot of people from it, a lot of lads inside the jails watch me videos, and the maybes will come across him inside a prison. And he will get prison justice. He'll be in the high security estate, and if he does try to go unnoticed and mixing in amongst them, he will get the beating of his life. He might even get the hot ghee on him, which is butter melted up, burnt up in a pan and tipped on individuals, because that's what happens inside a prison to people like him. But like I say, he probably went on the VP wings, because I bet you he doesn't act in that manner towards bigger men. He'll just be doing it to the weaker ones, the ones that he can do it to. And he'll have done it to the coppers because he knows nothing is going to significantly happen to him. Hopefully the coppers give him a beating in the cells, which sometimes it doesn't happen all the time because of all the CCTV. Not like back in the day, fucked around with the coppers and they would smash it to pieces. But when he's been wrapped up off the coppers, he'll have getting a few broken ribs. So hopefully he suffered a little bit there, but he will 100% come up against other individuals inside a prison that will want to inflict the same type of injuries onto him as what he'd done to the poor, gentle, innocent Mr. Mackey. But on that note, I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to give me condolences to Mr. Mackey's family. Hopefully they have some peace now that this horrible man has been found guilty and he's off the streets. He's 59-year-old with a 22.5 year to do before he's up for parole. So he's going to be in his 80s before he's even considered for parole. But looking at him, you can tell what type of individual he is. You can tell he's the type that'll be on the narcotics. So hopefully he has a bad batch inside and that will get rid of him. But if not, he will not see out his sentence, because he's not going to live until he's into his 80s like the poor, gentle Mr. Mackey did. But like I say, condolences with the family. Hopefully they take a little bit of peace, knowing that, like I've just said, he's off the streets for good. But as usual, people, if you are enjoying the content, remember to comment, like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend ahead. And most importantly, stay safe.